2025, and you're listening to the While We Still Can podcast. We're here to tell you about Missouri news and also national news and just kind of jam about whatever we want to talk about. There's still a lot going on, Our institutions are failing right and left, which is kind of depressing. Can't say it's surprising, but it's depressing. And it's been kind of stormy here in the Midwest. How you doing, Tina?
Some tornadoes. Actually, how many people died? Quite a few people died.
I think 37 throughout 30?
Yeah.
Illinois, was it Mississippi?
Mississippi.
Missouri and southern Missouri. And
a lot of destruction, but also there was a lot of fires.
Yeah, it was so windy.
Windy. And so just in my little area, there were three, in my town, there were three like large uncontrolled fires for a little while, I believe. And my sister got evacuated, and then the fire by my parents' house.
Oh, well.
But my sister lives by the river, and it was pretty wavy out there.
Oh, crazy.
I know, it's scary. You can't control it. I know. It's all reminding us that we can't control any of it all the time. I hate it. Hate that.
Yeah. So that's, feel sad for all the people that got affected by that. Whether, obviously, if a person died from it, but not only that, but just destruction of property and having to rebuild and fix things. It's hard.
And it's scary. Like, even if bad things don't happen to you or your things, watching it happen to other people.
Yeah.
But
we were just talking about.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
That's when we need to lean on community with that, which I feel like.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, we get federal funding, like FEMA funding. I'm not sure how the cuts will show up with that. Mike Kehoe posted that his heart goes out to survivors, not survivors, that sounded terrible, families, that funding's on its way to be continued. I'm going to keep an eye on that, guys. That's in my notebook.
So in Missouri, the Missouri House approved a $1.3 billion tax cut plan. And so let's talk about this, because nobody likes to pay taxes. I don't, you don't, nobody does. This is a Jason Hancock article from March 12th from the Missouri Independent. And, just to clarify, because we're all about giving credit where credit is due here at the While We Still Can pod. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and read some of this.
For it.
Yeah, it says that wide-ranging legislation that would lower tax rates for individuals and businesses passed the Missouri House on Wednesday. The 100-53 vote saw 3 Republicans joining with the Democrats in opposition. It now heads to the Senate for consideration. The key provision in the bill is a gradual reduction in the state income tax from 4.7 to 3.7% over the next 10 years. The yearly percentage point rate reduction would only go into effect if the state revenues grow by at least $170 million a year. Okay, so let's just pause there. So there is a backstop here. They're not cutting that from the budget or as income unless the revenues grow in other ways. Okay, so continuing on, when fully phased in, the bill's fiscal note estimates a $1.3 billion reduction in state revenue. Quote, the number would indicate we meet every single trigger every single year, unquote, said House Speaker Pro Tem Chad Perkins, a Bowling Green Republican handling the legislation. If things go that incredibly well, we're all going to do great. Let's hope that happens. That would mean Missouri's economy is doing great. Okay, I can't disagree with that. How about you, Tina? The article goes on to say the corporate tax would also be reduced from 4% to 3.75%, and the capital gains tax would be eliminated. Okay, so just pause there. Capital gains is like if you own a stock and that stock appreciates, and then when you sell the stock and you that gain is yours. Capital gains is the tax you pay on the increase. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal for that tax to get it eliminated. So State Representative David Tyson Smith, a Columbia Democrat, complained that the inclusion of the corporate and capital gains tax cuts focuses too much of the legislation on the wealthy and does so while potentially putting the state's budget at risk. He said, everyone appreciates a tax cut, but why do we have to slide in tax cuts for the rich? Governor Mike Kehoe entered office in January, pledging to fulfill his campaign promise to eliminate the state's income tax. Representative legislative leaders have echoed his call, pushing a handful of the tax cut proposals in both the House and Senate. One of those proposals, a $30 million capital gains tax cut, cleared the House earlier this year and only needs to be approved by the Senate before heading to Kehoe's desk. But on Tuesday, it ran into bipartisan opposition that stalled its momentum. It's just very skewed to the most wealthy people, said State Senate. Oh, hang on. It went behind your window. I can't tech. Okay. It's just very skewed to the most wealthy people, State Senator Mike Sirapoit. I'm sorry, I'm probably pronouncing that terribly wrong. A Lee's Summit Republican said of capital gains bill, the 8,000 wealthiest families in Missouri will get more than half of the benefit. Federal money that bolstered the state budget for years is drying up, Sirapoit noted, and the lawmakers must be mindful when considering anything that would reduce state revenue and impact services. Missouri is not like a lot of states, he said. If we cut taxes, we have to go back to the ballot to reinstate, so we have to be very careful. The top marginal rate for Missouri's income tax has gradually declined from 6% in 2015 to 4.7% this year under legislation passed in 2014. Two future tax cuts to a 4.5% rate already in state law and will take effect if general revenue growth hits targets. Income tax remains the single largest portion of the state general revenue, with individual income tax contributing 65% and the corporate income tax about 7% of the $13.4 billion received in fiscal 2024. Wow, they're going to eliminate the capital gains tax. Tell you what, if you got stocks, that's a hell of a good deal. I don't think a lot of people have stocks, though. Not sure. But, I mean, it does say they must be banking on it coming from somewhere else because...
Bank from the
Yeah. It says, again, the number would indicate we meet every single trigger every single year. No. It says, and this is back to early in the article, a key provision in the bill is a gradual reduction, blah, 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 only if state revenues grow by at least $170 million a year. And your question, it sounds like, is where the hell is that state revenue money coming from if it's not through some type of tax? I don't know. It could be like tax on other stuff. I don't know. I know that's an academic statement. Other stuff. I just don't know. It's a great question. Maybe they have a good answer to that. I just don't know.
Sorry.
Well, maybe it's coming from marijuana.
That's what 170. I said weed.
Well, you did. Oh, I didn't hear you say that.
Sorry. I was like weed.
I don't know. I'd like to know, though.
I'm going to look it up. I just want to keep...
Yeah. If anybody out there knows where we're going to get $175 million so we can give people capital gains
they can even
freedom.
Mansplain it to me. I don't even give a crap. I don't even give a shit. Okay.
All right. Shifting to national news.
Okay. So there is basically some concern that there's some steps that you're going to see happen as you're going into an authoritarian government. And, we're seeing a lot of them happen with Trump. But, we've had our three branches of government and our checks and balances. And, they're shaky, but they haven't been really working for a minute. But what we were really waiting for to know that they were not holding was for judges to be making rulings and for Trump to just give him the middle finger and doing it anyways, right? So, Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Is that the year? Right. Did you see that, Lisa?
So what I learned was that was a wartime statute to expedite the deportation of alleged members of the Venezuelan gang.
M13 or
Tren de Aragua. Oh my God, I can do better than that. Tren de Aragua.
TDA.
This grant,
let's call it TDA.
TDA, okay. This act grants the president authority to detain and remove non-citizens from countries considered hostile during times of declared war or invasion. However, but the United States is not currently at war with Venezuela, is it? And the Alien Enemies Act has historically been applied during formal wartime periods, such as the War of 1812, World War I, World War II. Critics argue that invoking this act, if you invoke it during peacetime to target non-state actors, is unprecedented and may circumvent established legal procedures in immigration law. And we've heard stories of, like, one gentleman who had he presented for
there's been several stories of
refugee.
People being detained.
Yeah, and he's actually missing now, if that's accurate. I saw several posts by his attorney, and they like misidentified a tattoo he has as being gang related, but it was absolutely not. And so he got moved to a different facility, and then they totally lost touch with him, and the facilities are saying they don't know where he is. So now he's just like kind of disappeared.
Well, he probably got sent to the El Salvador.
Yes. So think about that. If what we're hearing is accurate, a person from Venezuela was trying to come to the United States as a refugee, got falsely imprisoned for something, and then got sent to El Salvador. Can you imagine just like being sent with absolutely no resources to a country that's not yours? I mean, what a nightmare.
Those prisons that they're sending them to are the worst of the worst.
No.
And the problem is, what the argument that I keep hearing when I say that, like, he can't do that, they're like, why would you have an argument that we can't deport gang members that are raping and killing United States citizens? And I was like, okay, how do you know any of what you're hearing is true? Like, these people, they did not have due process. Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's
you
for
don't
sure.
know. Yeah. You don't know who those people are. You don't know who they're sending out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's terrifying that a judge made an order, and he wasn't even saying you can't deport these people. He said there's a temporary restraining order to make sure that these people are not citizens, not whatever.
Right.
And his daughter got doxxed. They keep doxing the daughters, okay? And which is another telltale sign of, like, is this Russia? Like, what the fuck's happening?
Right, and to intimidate.
Yeah. And so you can't have accountability now because we didn't do accountability. So all the criminals are criming.
Yeah, that ruling that you were mentioning, it's U.S. District Judge Boasberg. And like you say, it was a 14-day temporary restraining order to block the administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act for these deportations. And his reasoning was, like you said, the acts pertain to hostile acts by nations equating to war, not non-military immigration issues. It also the order mandated that any deportation flights already in progress return to the United States. So he's trying hard to keep things legal here.
Right. No, I know. And, I've also heard the argument that, immigrants detained don't have due process or whatever.
Yeah, what are they going to do? Hire a high-priced attorney?
Well,
probably not.
But saying that they don't have that right because they're illegal immigrants, but I looked it up, and under the 5th and 14th Amendment, they do have the right to due process, and you can't. That's what makes us not fucking rogue countries, okay?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well,
that's what, shitty countries do. Like, I'm sorry, we're being a shitty country. This is shitty.
Well, yeah, and in countries like that, a judge who upholds the law, which is what judges are supposed to do, to have his family doxxed, that never would have happened 20 years ago. But here we are.
Yeah.
Unless you were dealing with, like, the mafia or something, which is kind of what we're doing now.
We're dealing with, like, the mafia, and then we have to pay them our taxes. I really don't want to file.
Yeah.
They're already
Well,
going
so
to
on that
send me to
note,
camp. I'm going to Trump derangement camp.
maybe you'll get a cool badge. I'm just kidding. But on that note, like, they're joking around in France that they want their statue back.
Oh, we have to give the
Because,
Statue of Liberty.
yeah,
We have to
so
give.
just to review, like, the Statue of Liberty, you guys probably all know this. I don't mean to insult your
No,
intelligence.
I don't think. No, well,
but
our listeners
we,
do.
yeah, our listeners do. They know. But it was gifted to us, the Statue of Liberty was, in 1886 as a symbol of friendship between the two nations. And
They don't want to be
the
friends
sculptor,
anymore. Give me back my friendship necklace.
The idea came from like a politician there who was advocating for American democracy and abolition of slavery. And so part of the reason they gifted it to us was a celebration of abolition of slavery. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the Statue of Liberty has broken shackles on her feet, and you can't really see them very well unless you view the statue from above. But the original statue, they were much more visible and prominent, but that got ixnayed, and so they hid it so it's just peeking out from under her gown, but they're still there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, they want her back.
They want her back.
We don't deserve her anymore. That's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed.
That got me curious about the poem that's on, and of course, and the poem is The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus. And of course, we've heard this all our lives, but the famous line is, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door."
As we send you to El Salvador.
Right.
And so, we know, like, the thing is, it's the salivating over it and like getting a boner over it. Like they're turning it into porn of sorts.
Are you saying that the cruelty of it is all the point?
Yeah, they get off to it. And that is going to isolate us, which is also what they want, which reminds me of like North Korea, Russia, like Iron Curtain. You guys don't want this. I don't want this. And then they say we're dramatic. I have been arguing with people. Yeah. And they will never get it, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, and on that same note, like this week the Voice of America lost their funding, and Voice of America, it's a U.S. government-funded international broadcast service that provides news, information, and cultural programming in multiple languages to audiences worldwide. It was established in 1942, and its parent agency is the Agency for Global Media. And the mission of that institution is to promote free and open press access while providing objective news coverage, particularly in regions where independent journalism is restricted or censored.
Information is power. That's why they're taking it away.
Yeah, and it operates independently, but its funding does come from the U.S. government, which has led to debates over its editorial independence. So, pretty much all of Voice of America's staff got basically laid off and fired this week. This is a Reuters article, and it said, 1,300 Voice of America employees were placed on leave Saturday, and funding for 2 U.S. news services that broadcast to authoritarian regimes was terminated one day after President Donald Trump ordered the gutting of the government-funded media outlet's parent and 6 other federal agencies. So their goal here is to cripple independent media, not just here, but worldwide.
To make it hard for us to...
And that is shocking.
That's concerning, guys.
I think we've taken accurate, independent journalism in the United States so far for granted that we don't understand what life looks like without it.
I don't know. I think it's been really... But like I said, like that Trump derangement syndrome that they're trying to pass, they're trying to classify it as a mental illness in Minnesota. They have some legislation. And did I already talk about that?
We talked about it before we pressed play.
Okay.
Record, rather.
No, but so that is controlling. So if you get labeled with that as so having this podcast would like, which camp are they going to send me to?
I don't know.
Am I going to RFK's camp? Am I going to do they have a dual diagnosis?
Was he depression anxiety camp? I can't remember. I can't keep them all straight.
The organic farming.
Okay.
For my
I think a fair practice, if you will, is that anytime you hear of something and you're assessing it, imagine what it would be like if the shoe was on the other foot. Okay, so imagine if you had if we were in a Biden administration or a Harris-Walsh administration or whatever, and some joker wanted to create a mental illness for like just wearing a red hat or having a Trump sign in your yard or on your barn or painted on your house, as the case may be, do you deserve a special place in psychiatric care for that? I mean,
no, you just have to wear an upside down triangle on your arm, a pink one upside down with a big old slash through it.
Terrible.
Like we're bringing back the flag system.
What I'd say to that is those people, they don't deserve to officially be diagnosed with some psychiatric problem because they support a particular political party. So perhaps we shouldn't either.
I just don't give a fuck about what anybody else does as long as they're not being a dick.
Same. I don't care. Don't hurt anybody and don't be a dick.
Don't be mean to animals.
Yeah, absolutely not. That's a sign of being a psychopath, isn't it? If you're mean to animals.
Yeah.
Most days I like animals more than I like people, truth be told.
Wow. Rude. Just kidding. Me too. Fuck. Nope. The dog doesn't talk, although the dog does just
I have to tell you about a super awkward moment I had in an Uber.
Oh, okay. Is this a pod story or not?
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. It's just like,
go for it.
So I was in Long Beach, California, and I'm like on my way to a convention conference, and we were sitting at a stoplight waiting to turn right, and the people were crossing the crosswalk, and there's this really pretty dog, like some Labrador mix. And when I saw the dog, I smiled because it was a pretty dog, I'm like, wow, it's a cool dog. And the guy looked at me in his rearview mirror, and he's like, is everything okay? And I'm like, that's a really cool dog. He's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Never mind.
Special lady in my car.
Yeah.
I would have barked at him and be like, whoo.
Anywho.
Yeah.
On we went.
Well, I'm glad you're back.
Hey, thanks, man.
Sucks. You gotta fucking work. You're not on call Wednesday, though.
No.
I won't say. I'll cut that out. Okay. Let's do the outro.
Okay. All right. So, that's the news for today, guys. So again, we want to extend large appreciation to everyone that listens. We are so glad you're here, and we hope you get some value out of the news that comes around. So we'll be back later this week, probably with another episode. And if you didn't have a chance to, please do go to YouTube or wherever you listen and check out our interview with Will Westmoreland, because it was really great. He's a good guy out there in the world sharing information with people. So make sure you check that one out and follow him on social media or his website, wherever you can. All right. Anything else tonight, Tina?
Take care of yourselves.
Yeah. Amen to that.
I have to tell myself that quite often.
Every day.
And then I stress everybody else out. It's really fun. Okay.
All right. Take care out there. We love you. This is the While We Still Can Pod.